Today's episode is brought to you by Stream by AlphaSense, an expert interview transcript library that integrates AI-generated call summaries and NLP search technology so their clients can quickly pinpoint the most critical insights. Start your free trial at www.streamrg.co/PMC. That's STREAMRG.co/PMC. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not an offer or solicitation of an offer to buy or sell securities. SNN Network, SNN Inc., and the Planet MicroCap Podcast and the representatives are not licensed brokers, broker-dealers, market makers, investment bankers, investment advisors, analysts, or underwriters. We do not recommend any companies discussed. We may buy and sell securities in any company mentioned and may profit in the event those securities rise in value. We recommend you consult with a professional investment advisor, broker, or legal counsel before purchasing or selling any securities referenced in this podcast. Welcome to the Planet MicroCap Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Kraft. Thank you all so much for the support and for tuning in. You can follow Planet MicroCap on Twitter at Bobby K. Kraft. That's BOBBYKKRAFT. And you're listening to episode 220. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to tweet at me or shoot me an email at rkraft@snnwire.com. And when you do get a chance, if you like what you hear, please rate and review Planet MicroCap on iTunes and Spotify. It really helps provide feedback for me and spread the MicroCap message. Special thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, Stream by AlphaSense, an expert interview transcript library that integrates AI-generated call summaries and NLP search technology so their clients can quickly pinpoint the most critical insights. Start your free trial at www.streamrg.co/PMC. That's STREAMRG.co/PMC. And to Quarter, whose mission is to change the way people look at investor relations and create a completely new bridge between companies and stakeholders. Visit your app store of choice to try it out, and that's Quarter, QUARTR. We're excited to host our first in-person event in nearly 3 years. The Planet MicroCap Showcase is back in Las Vegas on May 3rd through the 5th, 2022 at Bally's Hotel and Casino. It's time to see each other. It's time to network in person. Let's make it all happen in the entertainment and business capital of the world. For more information, please go to www.planetmicrocapshowcase.com. See you in Vegas. Now, for this episode of the Planet MicroCap Podcast, I spoke with Manuel Mauricio, founder and editor of allinstocks.com. We've talked at length on this podcast about investing is more an art than science, where sometimes even a disciplined investor may slightly alter their criteria because there was something about an idea that caused them to dive deeper or ignore entirely. That's what Manuel and I try to unpack in today's episode, the concept of je ne sais quoi, the inexplicable about a potential investment. And since Manuel is based in Portugal, we closed out today's pod with how I can make my dream of moving to Portugal at some point happen. Thank you again for tuning in to episode 220 of the Planet MicroCap Podcast, and please enjoy my conversation with Manuel Mauricio. This episode is brought to you by Stream by AlphaSense. You can find them at streamrg.co/PMC. That's STREAMRG.co/PMC. Stream is an expert interview transcript library that is starting to become an integral part to investors' research process. They have a number of interviews on a wide variety of companies, including TMT, consumers, industrials, real estate, and more. Stream provides over 300 expert interviews per week, and 70% of their experts are found exclusively on Stream. Stream is unlike any other transcript libraries. Stream integrates AI-generated call summaries and NLP search technology so their clients can quickly pinpoint the most critical insights. Stream's community of experts and thought leaders partner with Stream to build their professional brands and expand their industry influence. Right now, there are approximately 8,500 plus call transcripts available. For more information, please visit www.streamrg.co/PMC. That's STREAMRG.co/PMC. Welcome back, everybody, to the Planet MicroCap Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Kraft. You can follow me on Twitter at Bobby K. Kraft. That's BOBBYKKRAFT. Joining me right now is Manuel Mauricio. He is the founder and editor at allinstocks.com. Manuel, Thanks for joining me, man. How you doing?
Hi, Bobby. It's very nice to be here. I've been following your work for several years now. I won't say that I watch all of your videos because you can put out a lot of content, but a lot of them I watch, and you've been, and we'll get to that in a minute, but you've been one of the contributors to my education as an investor. So thank you very much for having me here.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for those kind words, man. I mean, look, when we started this a while ago, that was the goal. We wanted to help on the education side and wanted to make it very approachable. Because I mean, look, I'm as ding dong as it gets. So we want to make sure that fellow noobs like I was can realize that it's not so it's not too scary. Investing's not. I mean, it's hard, but it's not. It's approachable.
What about podcasting? Did you find it scary when you started?
No, honestly, that wasn't the scary part. It was watching myself afterwards.
Oh, yeah?
That was the scary part. I had to get over that pretty quickly. Like now I could care less. I just did an interview the other day on mindandstockeducation.com. And that one, I can now finally watch myself when I'm either being interviewed or doing an interview. But at the beginning, that was the one where I was like, damn, you're fat. You sound like an idiot.
It's
not much has changed. So I've been able to just accept that,
And I don't know if it works this way for you as well, but I do a podcast in Portuguese, and ever since I started doing it, and sometimes I go and watch myself to see if I look good, and it has helped me getting better at communication, getting better at my looks, right? Getting a little bit healthier or a little bit more fit or fitter. So I think it's kind of an interesting thing, not only for your professional, from a professional point of view, but from a self-improvement point of view as well.
Oh, absolutely. I've said the story a couple of times, but I somehow talked my way into a surf instructor job back in college. And I'm not, I mean, I've gotten a lot better since then, but at the time, I was just really getting into it. Somehow I talked my way into teaching others how to surf. But I use that example because that actually accelerated my growth, because I was able to really key in on certain things that other folks were doing. They're like, hey, am I doing the same thing? Like, how can I improve? Or am I, just really, and also watching some of the other instructors who were much better surfers than me, and understanding how they were teaching and all this stuff. So I use that as my example, where I carry that experience over to, podcasting, investing, microcaps, because it definitely, there's a lot of carryover there for sure. Feeling there's that phrase where you're just like, it's that imposter syndrome sometimes, right? And then just, slowly realize, okay, I think I belong, at this point. But
you actually learn by teaching others. When going back to that surfing lessons or surfing teacher role, you actually learn more when you have to condense information and to 100%. Teach others and to convey information in a digestible way. It's a pretty good exercise to learn as well.
Oh, for sure. Well, listen, we could turn the mics around. I'll happy to answer your questions all day, but you're on my show, so I'm asking you the questions. So here we go. I mean, look, I've been following you for a while. You've come to a few of our events, but for those who aren't subscribers to All In Stocks, heard your podcast, where did your passion for investing begin?
Well, unlike many other of your show guests, I was an architect. I don't have a finance background. I didn't intern at an hedge fund while I was in college. I didn't belong to any investment club. So I spent my college years just hanging around with my friends, partying without worrying too much about life. So that's a head start that a lot of people have that I don't have. And where do I start? Well, I'm from Portugal. I live in Lisbon currently. I studied here as trained as an architect. Then I went to live in Barcelona, in Madrid, in São Paulo, Brazil. And at some point when I was in São Paulo working as a product manager for a Portuguese company, I had some money stashed in the bank or saved, and I knew I wanted to do something with my savings. The first thing I did with my savings was to invest in a nearly bankrupt bank, Portuguese bank. I knew nothing about investing, nothing about stocks, but the bank was going through a rough period, and I thought I can make some money here. I'm probably smart, and I remember quite vividly. I put 10,000 euros, which for me was a lot of money, and at some point that those 10,000 euros went to 9,000 euros. And I thought, well, this is my limit, 10% of my money. I understood that I knew nothing, so I could lose it all. And in fact, that bank, which is a story quite well known here in Portugal, went bankrupt, and there's no bank any longer. So that was my first encounter with investing in stocks. I think I've seen several investors talking about this. I think it was Ian Castle, and you'll see me mentioning Ian quite often because he's one of my inspirations. But he was saying that, I think it was him saying that it's better for an investor to have a bad experience at first than a really great experience, because if you have a really great experience when you don't know a lot about investing, you're going to think that you know more than you do, and then that great experience will probably do you more harm than good in the future, because instead of investing $10,000, you're probably going to invest I don't know, 100 or a million in your next idea, thinking that you're a big shot. So I think it was a good start for my investing career, that bank, which is now bankrupt. Quite just, I don't know, I mixed things up, but I think it was a few days or weeks after this. I was in São Paulo having lunch with a few friends, Portuguese friends, and one of them happened to mention something like he was referring to someone doesn't even know the difference between a stock and a bond. And I was like, I don't know the difference between a stock and a bond. And I asked him, hey, what's the difference between a stock and a bond? And he told me, I don't remember exactly what he told me, but I know that I went online, Googled stock, bonds. I think I immediately found Buffett and all the value investing, cultural and movement and all of that. And I just got hooked from day one. It was like, wow, this makes real sense. Investing in stocks like if they were real businesses. I think I've always wanted to be a business owner, but I didn't want to actually operate the business. So the idea of not having to operate the business was just an amazing thing. Let others do the work for me, and I just need to put money there, and it will grow. Hopefully, it will grow. So
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no.
I wanted to quick follow up here, because listen, you're the first investor that I've had on from Portugal, which, by the way, we're going to talk about a little bit later because it's my wife and I's dream place to move to at some point in our lives.
I want to know all about that.
I'm such a fan, and we haven't been personally, but okay, we'll get there. But I wanted to talk about the finance culture in Portugal. And what is it like? I mean, do most folks, and this is coming from complete naivete and ignorance of Portuguese culture. So I apologize. I don't mean to offend, but I mean, what is finance culture like in Portugal? To us, US, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, Portugal, it was the country that almost went default, right? I mean, so love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm the right person to be asking that, because since I have no financial, at least official financial background, I might be missing a lot of stuff here. But from my point of view, what I can tell is that most people think about investing in stocks like if it was a casino. And when I say that I'm a full-time private investor and I invest in stocks, people will ask me about crypto and about Bitcoin. and those things that go up and down. I don't know anything about that. And even CEOs and people with real companies, when I try to tell them it's almost the same as what you do when they acquire other companies and when they run their companies, and like from the business point of view, that a stock is part ownership of a business. People just don't, and I would say don't get it because they don't. We had until 1974, we had how do you say, it was not a democracy, it was a dictatorship, right-wing dictatorship. And then in 74, the left parties and left-wing parties took over, and most of our companies and property was nationalized. So there's a stigma, I think, I'm not sure, but I think much of it from, at least in my parents' generation, boomers, there's that stigma that you can lose everything in stocks. Add to that the fact that there's been several blow-ups or in Portuguese companies. There are some very good companies. But there are a lot of them that are very bad, very bad, and people have lost money because typically the financial education here isn't like the US, where the financial system is much more advanced than here. So people don't have a high degree of financial education. So they will invest in stocks like a casino and they will lose money. So I think that's the background. Having said that, I think that this younger generation, and I myself included, but even younger people, millennials, they're starting with YouTube, with Zoom, with newsletters, with all of this. They're starting to understand and to educate themselves, and mostly influenced by the FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early, because people just don't want to be working their 9-to-5 jobs. And that's I think the first contact that people in Portugal have with investing. They start investing, thinking about indexing, and then probably start thinking about investing in stocks, and so on and so on. So that's it.
I'd like to take a quick second to tell you about this episode's sponsor, Quarter. With Quarter, you get frictionless access to conference calls, investor presentations, transcripts, and earnings reports from markets all around the world, straight from your pocket for no cost. Quarter's mission is to change the way people look at investor relations and create a completely new bridge between companies and stakeholders. The first step on this journey is to let you, the user, interact with the company's content while you're listening. Visit your app store of choice and try it out today by searching for Quarter. And that's QUARTR. Now back to the show. Got it. Oh, no, thank you for that. By the way, when it comes to financial education, the U.S. it's not that great either. You know, I think you could probably ask most investors if they've ever taken a finance class in high school or accounting class, and it's probably less than 1%. I would wager.
Yeah, but it's ingrained in your culture. So
sure.
Right, you know what index funds are, you know that stocks aren't just papers that go up and down. Although Peter Lynch, if that was completely true, Peter Lynch wouldn't have to tell you that.
I think nowadays it's definitely much more ingrained in the culture, you know, not just having to do with recent boom, since the bottom in 2020 and the rise, but there's so much more financial media out there in turn, not just like what we do, but actual movies and TV shows. I mean, those things have become part of the culture, billions and unfortunately the Wolf of Wall Street, the original Wall Street, now all these new shows, whatchamacallit, we just started watching Super Pumped, the Uber show, and
Super Pumped. Let me write it down.
Yeah, right. It's interesting. And then the third, I mean, there's so many of these shows. Unfortunately, it seems like it's mostly like, because it's Hollywood, they want to do like a crazy story, right? And then the epic downfall. But at the end of the day, those are people are watching them, and becoming more just aware and even crypto to an extent. There's still a lot to be understood. At least I'm speaking for myself personally, but that actually has helped, with folks wanting to become more financially literate and understand what's going on. Do I necessarily think that's the right way? I don't know. As long as people are trying to become more financially literate, that's all I really care about. So whether they're doing it through crypto, through microcaps, through indexing, it doesn't really matter. Through bonds, it doesn't really matter to me, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, totally. That's a good. I've never thought about that in that way. That more speculative assets might be the gateway to learning about investing, which is quite a nice perspective.
I mean, that was actually the original thesis for microcap, or for Planet MicroCap, was I still think that this is the best place to start. Not necessarily. I mean, yes, of course you can become, very wealthy if you do your research and you make the right picks, but just in terms of nailing down your process and doing the deep dive due diligence, because I mean, microcaps, everything's got hair, man. So it's great. It's a great place to really understand, well, how do you handle risk? How do you handle real risk? You could BS all you want about risk associated with some of these blue chippers out there, but that's not real risk, because there's a good likelihood that they're not going anywhere. But in microcaps, that's where you
do you know that I discovered MicroCap Club almost in the beginning of my investing career.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, and it's still my favorite resource out there. I recommended it to everyone and anyone that wants to learn how to invest in stocks. And immediately I understood that these guys, and some of you've had on your show, these guys are really good. And I'm not talking about their returns, because you don't even, they've got a ranking or there, but you don't even know what's their portfolio returns. A lot of them are just private investors, but the level of detail and the level of due diligence that these guys get into, I thought, this is the place where I need to be. These are the guys that I need to be learning from, even if I want to invest in more easier stocks like big caps, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, which are much easier to understand. You don't have to go find information that it's hidden somewhere else and all of that. And since the beginning, I thought microcap investing is probably, from the available choices, the choices that are available to me, is the hardest one. So this is where I should start, at least to learn about how to do proper research. And then, of course, there are VC investments and all of that. But I think if you wanted to learn about stocks, microcaps it's hard. It's really hard. They will punch you in the face. But it's the place to be. It's really exciting as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And listen, and also exciting can be relative. We got two microcap nerds here, so for us it's exciting. But I also co-sign MicroCap Club is one of the best platforms out there for education. I think the reason why you went on there and became I'm guessing it was on the subscriber side. That's the real meat right there. And I'm sure even folks on there would agree, you want to be on there, idea generation, that's nice. But it's really just seeing how they break down stuff and understanding their theses.
I think you have Meredith.
Yeah.
I remember listening to your show with her, and I was like, and for those who are watching or listening, she was a lawyer. She's a lawyer, patent lawyer, something related to that. And she goes to an extreme detail, finding out legal stuff about the business. She's researching all of that. And I was like, wow, this isn't for me. I don't want to get that deep into the weeds, but it goes to show the quality of these people and the depth of research that they do.
Oh, we're definitely going to tag Meredith when we share this episode for sure. She deserves an even bigger following than she already has, because she's one of the best legendary microcap investors that a lot of people should know her and everything. But let's get back to you. You know,
I was about to go on a tangent as well.
I was going to say, look, the caffeine, and I'll tell you, the caffeine just hit me, so I could go. We could keep going, but so I want you to catch us up. You know, you originally started as an go back to your back. You originally started as an architect. You realized that you loved investing, that you wanted to get more into it. Catch us up to architect, dipping the toe, to now full-time private investor looking at microcaps, launching a website dedicated to talking about your ideas at allinstocks.com.
Well, as I told you, when I was still in São Paulo working as not an architect, but a project manager, there was a friend. I had a friend over like 1 month living there. He was in between, I don't know if it's jobs or whatever. And he was there, and I was, in the evenings, I was just reading about investing, and he was like, one day you're going to be doing that full time. And I was like, I wish. And I knew very little about it. And, but I knew, I think I secretly hoped that he was right? I was like, I really like doing this. I really like, it's like a treasure hunt. You get hooked on it, right? It's like, I've heard about this company ABC, and someone told me that it might be a great investment. Let's do my research and figure out if I believe that it might become a good investment as well. And then take it with a grain of salt. You just have to put money out there, right? Invest your money and let the business and the management do the work for you. So that was really appealing to me at first. And Rob Vinal, the English guy that lives in Switzerland, highly recommend watching his interviews. He has a motto, which is, I got in because it was easy. I stayed because it was hard. So that's exactly my story. This looked like he's easy. Like, I just put 1,000 euros or 1,000,000 euros in some company and it will go up and I'll become a millionaire. But then you start to realize that it's much harder than that. And then you go through a rabbit hole, learning about accounting, learning about and for obviously for those who don't know anything, who don't have a finance background, you need to learn about accounting, finance. You need to learn about decision making, about behavioral finance, about psychology, a lot of stuff. And these things sucks you, right? It's a whole new world. At least that's how I saw it, and that's how I see it. It's a whole new world. And better yet, you have on Twitter and on message boards and all of that, a whole community of people just talking about the same things, and it just hooks you up, right? For me, it was like that. And then at some point, I returned in 2018. I returned to Portugal. I had my girlfriend living here. My company there had to scale down operations. Another good story, if you are interested in it, going to Brazil, European companies going to Brazil, thinking that they'll find something and they find something else. And then I came back to Portugal in 2018, and I decided, well, let's seize this opportunity to learn a bit about finance, about accounting, all of that. I knew that I still had to learn a lot, and then probably I'll get a job as an architect after 1 or 2 years after I learned what I wanted to learn. So until today, this is 4 or 5 years down the road. And at some point, a fellow investor, Portuguese investor, who runs the biggest newsletter, investing newsletter here in Portugal, even before newsletters were cool, he noticed me because I was always coming up with questions and stuff on his forum and on his Facebook group, and he thought, well, he's a guy that can help me, and he invited me to join him and open a new branch of the newsletter just for American companies. And I said, okay. Then we started negotiations. Negotiations didn't go well, and each of us went our separate ways. And I thought to myself, well, if this guy believes that I can do this. Why don't I believe in myself? So I started a blog, allinstocks.com, and which at some point turned into a paid newsletter. And now it's shifting into an investment school. I want to make it like a one-stop shop for novice investors where they can learn all about investing. So I had a very, very long learning curve. I'm a slow learner. Everyone wants to be a fast learner. I'm a real slow learner. So I got to read the same thing over and over again. So it gets hatched into my brain. So I decided there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's what I'm trying to do now. Make it the one-stop shop for people who know nothing, to take people from zero to hero, and to learn about investing. That's
very,
it.
Very cool. And so let's get into some of the nitty gritty now, investing philosophy, everything. But first things first, being a Portuguese local, do you specifically look at certain regions, or are you looking at global opportunities?
Mostly US, I know not very different from your other guests, US, Canada, Europe to a lesser extent, Hong Kong, and Australia. That's for now. That's where I've been to, and mostly US and Canadian companies. I also own one company from Australia. You've had the CEO on your show just recently, and that's it. I don't typically look too much into Europe, but I'm starting to change that because there's a lot of value here, and I would say, not sure if this is correct or accurate, I would say that it's still, some places are still, undiscovered. For instance, let's take Portugal. Apart from that lousy bank that I bought into, I've just invested in one other stock in Portugal, and it was a lousy company. I sold Apple to buy that company because theoretically it was turning around and it would be much better than Apple. And then look at Apple, and that stock went just downwards from when I bought it and when I sold it. But the thing is, every once in a while in Portugal there are good stocks or good situations. I'm looking at a spin-off, and you've had Rick from Spin-off Investing on your show, and this is a spin-off that it looks like, and I'm still doing my due diligence, no one is watching. So it will spin off. It's a paper pulp company which is spinning off its energy business into a different public company. And theoretically, and I'm still doing the research, it's gonna, after the spin-off, the paper pulp company will be super cheap. And it seems like nobody's watching. Of course, it might not be like this. There might be some hair there. Okay, I understand that. But there is, because it's Portugal, I don't think, because it's a small company, because it's, all of these inefficiencies exist, right? You or a hedge fund manager from the US wouldn't typically come to Portugal to look for spin-offs. But here it is, and there are some other businesses that have been massive, great investments. So this is it.
Yeah. So is Portuguese public companies, if they're not listed, are they listed? What is it? The Euronext Lisbon? Is that the main exchange?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. That's okay, cool. So let's talk about your ideal investment, because you kind of already hit on what your investing philosophy is. You tend to gravitate towards value. I mean, if you go right on to allinstocks.com, it's the investor's guide to how Warren Buffett invests. So clearly value is your game. So for you though, right now, what does that ideal investment look like for you?
I'm not sure if my game is value investing. Of course, there's all of these definitions that you can come up with, and growth is value, and value is, well, whatever. I think, how do you say this? If you look at my portfolio, and you're gonna find compounders, you're gonna find commodities, you're gonna find health tech, you're gonna find social media, you're going to find special finance companies. So it's not as if I can tell you what's my style or I can fit in a well-defined style or philosophy. It's more of, I would call it the X factor. The stock has to have, or the company has to have an je ne sais quoi in French, an X factor, something that makes me want to own it and that makes me be excited about it. Okay, a lot of people, and I say it too, but a lot of people say that boring investments are the best investments. That is true, but I got in this because it was exciting, right? To find the treasure, to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So I want to get excited. I want to like what I get out of bed in the morning and think I'm going to find that stock, right? Then I have to tone it down, and I've had to put systems in place to tone this down, because if I find a stock that I like, a couple of years ago, I would put 30% of my money in that stock. And I realized, well, this isn't a great, this is the best way to go broke, right? To lose all my money. And for all those people that will tell you that you get rich by concentrating in a few investment ideas, and I agree with that. The other side of the coin is that that's also the fastest way for you to lose all your money, or to lose a big chunk of your money. So, and what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to be here, not to blow up, right? To be here 40 years from now, 50 years from now. So I put some systems in place. One of them, I live in the city center of Lisbon. I go walk whenever I found a company that excites me, and I get all fired up, and I tell my girlfriend, I found this company, it makes whatever, this and that and that. I gotta buy it. And she now tells me, no, we've got to go take a walk around downtown. And we take a walk, it's like 1 hour. And I pitch her the company. And she has no financial background. She's in marketing and sales. And she will ask me questions. And it will help me get better, refine my thought about that company. And then she will ask me, how much of your capital, what percentage of your capital will you put in it? And then I start with, 20, and then no, maybe 20 is too much, 20, and then I start thinking about it. I turn it down. It's a process that helps me control myself. So that's it. You could say that I have a broken algorithm. So you couldn't put it's value or growth guy. I think it's like rock and roll. Sometimes it's really heavy ones, and then sometimes you just want to play some mellow tune. So I think that's my form of investing.
Okay. It's I think I might name the title of this episode Je ne sais quoi investing. You don't know. It's something you want to look into.
It's let me do. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's something that they don't tell you, is that investing is super personal, right? What works for me, and it can be the best stock or the best company ever, might not work for Bobby Kraft. So it's something that you need to be able to sleep tight or get enthusiastic about. Yourself, you got to identify with that stock or with that company. Again, Ian Castle the other day was saying that, especially in microcaps, if you want to gain the conviction to hold stocks, especially microcaps, because they can go down like 50% in a few days, to build that conviction, you need to get some feeling, some attachment to the company's mission, or to where they're what they want to be doing or changing in the world. So I think that's it. Sorry, sometimes I just ramble.
No, I love it, man. This is why we do this. There's no time limit here. So then, what are the companies that, as you say, get you up in the morning? That ideal investment that fits it fits your strategy and the game that you want to play.
This might sound obvious, but usually it's a company that I envision that it will be worth a lot more in 5 years from now. And of course, everyone's looking for that. of course, that's the essence of investing, is buying something now that will be worth much more in a few years down the line. Usually, lately, I've been gravitating towards medtech companies that have unique assets. Again, influenced by the Great Newcastle, that have unique assets, and you can almost, and there's always pressure from competition and all of that, but you can almost envision that in 5 years, there's no way other than they're going to be selling a lot more. They're going to be scaling because they just signed a distribution agreement, or they just brought in another product, which is complementary to their current product. Usually something that's unique. Having said that, I usually say that my favorite stock, which I do not own, and this is not an investment advice, is O'Reilly Automotive, right? O'Reilly is one of those companies that the largest it gets, the bigger it gets, the better, more solid the business becomes. The moat gets wider and deeper every day. And I have not bought O'Reilly because I'm not sure. I think it's valuation, and it's at 22 times earnings right now. And if you go back, I don't know, 20 years, the average P ratio is 22 times earnings. And you could have done 20% compounded annual returns on that stock by paying that, or by paying 37 times earnings, which it was back, I don't know, 7 years ago. But I still can't buy it. And don't ask me why. Sometimes all things, the reasons are all there, but I just am not able to buy it. But O'Reilly, simple businesses, I tend to like, although I don't own any, I tend to like simple retail stories. O'Reilly, the Joint Corp, Five Below, these are all Costco. These are all excellent businesses, which
Sure.
No. I'm not a shareholder in any of these, unfortunately. But you see that they have great unit economics. For me, they're super easy to understand. And then they just need to repeat it, right? To open more stores and get bigger, and they be able to get better margins because they're bigger. So they can negotiate with their suppliers and all of that. So these are easy stories. Some, and I'm not recommending any of them, but you can see that 5 years from now, they're going to be bigger, right? So this is the simple stories. You see, because I'm not a finance guy, I don't have a mind for numbers, and I'm actually pretty poor at maths. So I'm a story guy, and I tend to drill down the thesis of the companies that I own to a one sentence, one line, right? For instance, uranium. I own a couple of companies in the uranium space, and I studied the uranium industry for 1 month. And then my thesis is just, all the mines are closed. We need uranium to make electric power, and the price of uranium must go up in order to incentivize all of those mines to go online. This is it. You can tell me, no, that's this happening there and that happening there. After I buy that, if that line, that fundamental thesis has not been broken, I just ride with it. And you might tell me, no, you got to learn the details. And I do. I follow the stocks, I follow the companies, I follow all of that. But what I get is just the line. It's what's on my head. Until it changes, nothing changes for me.
Very good. So that actually, my quick follow-up to that is, and this happens to be when it comes to your research process, do you tend to take like small starter positions just to kind of get the beak wet, get yourself invested after you've done like your quick due diligence where like, okay, this meets my base general criteria. Now I'm going to take it to my next step due diligence, but let me open up a small position so that I'm invested and want to follow it. So some folks do that. I'm curious if you do the same.
I do. Depends on the companies. I don't do it with all of them, because there's that rationale that if you like it, why do you like it just half a percentage point? You should own 5% or whatever. The truth is, especially with microcaps, you don't actually know, you suspect, you sense that there's something special there, but the management hasn't done what they're supposed to do yet, or the product hasn't ramped up yet the way you think it might ramp up, or that company is on the brink of signing a global distribution agreement. And then, for instance, I have a medtech company that I own, just a small startup position, and I'm hoping that it will sign a global distribution agreement, right? When it does, I have no problem of averaging up, and it might go up like twice or three times in a short period of time. I have no problem. Then is when I'm really convinced that it will play out, and it's not just an opportunity, it's a fact that it has been able to do it. So I do startup positions, not so much because I want to learn more about the business. That's one of the reasons, right? Oh, I want to learn more about this business, so I'm going to buy a startup position, so it forces me to understand more, to research it more. No, it's more like it's still in an early stage. It's like a venture capitalist kind of investing strategy. Put a little bit in several eggs and several baskets, and then let's see which one comes out winning.
Winninger. I like that one. So as a microcap investor, but being based in Portugal, I mean, how do you like to talk to management, and if so, how easy is it for you to get a hold of them to then do that due diligence?
I do like to talk to management. Unlike some other investors who like to talk to management on a regular basis, I find it very important. In some cases, not all cases. For instance, let's say I own Facebook, which I own. I have no interest in talking with Mark Zuckerberg, right? First, I wouldn't get a chance to talk to him, but I have no interest. Almost all the information is out there, and I've seen who he is, how he acts, and how he manages the company. Whereas with microcaps, most of the times the managements don't get as much exposure as Mark Zuckerberg, of course. So you want to understand if you go along with them, or if you send something, and this is more of a subject, how do you say it? It's not something hard facts that at least I'm trying to go after, or information that's not out there. It's just trying to get a feel for who's on the other side, what's the character of this management team. So I tend to like to talk to the management teams when I'm starting my research, or when I'm doing my initial research, or after I just bought a small position. And then I don't tend to talk to them just to ask them, okay, why did the sales go up 2% and not 2.5% like they did in the last quarter, right? Those minutiae, those details, I just don't care too much about it. It's just the big picture, and mostly the character of the person who I'm talking to.
Very good. And I'm guessing you also do some of your the channel checks as well, talking with maybe customers, past employees. Do you do some of that as well, or? Very
hard for me to do that. I thank God for the social networks and for internet, right? We were talking about Meredith. Meredith helped me understand a few businesses on Twitter. I just messaged her, and she helped me. And on Microcap Club, there's a lot of people, or I don't know, a lot of people that can help you. But the channel checks and former employees or clients and all of that, I sometimes think that there should be a tool for that. And I know that there's like Tegus or Tegus, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Tegus, yeah.
Tegus. But then there are some, for instance, if I want to know about a retailer, if that retailer is full of people, or what time people are there, or if it's has more people than in the past month, I can't do that, right? I can't. Well, I could just grab a plane and go whatever, but I would love to have a tool that would let me, it's like an Uber driver. Let's hire this person to go on Saturdays to Walmart every Saturday for 4 months. Just go check it out and see if it's full or empty. That would be amazing. And someone could invent that tool. I don't have it. It would be good. So it's harder for me to do that. Also because I don't have the acquaintances, the people. If you come from, I don't know, a finance school, you're gonna you will for sure meet people who are working that hedge fund or in that I don't know, in that business, and that your network is bigger than mine. Mine is still small, but we're working on it.
Very good. So you mentioned an experience or an investing experience that had a huge effect on your career when you invested in that the Portuguese bank that eventually went bankrupt. How you put in 10K euro and took it out at 9K because you're like, okay, I lost a little bit, but I'm in. What would you say was another investing experience that really changed your career for the most? That showed after you been in it for a while, did the work, you understood, you kind of got a sense of what your strategy was. Do you have a story like that really was like, all right, this really helped me say this is the type of investor that I am?
I have, but it's not what you're expecting. It's not a stock. It's a because of this that I just told you about that. Because I'm in Portugal and I didn't study in a finance school or whatever, so I don't have the network, and I have had very few mentors. And mentors are really important. Like if you have interned at hedge funds for your entire college time, you will come out of college much better prepared, right? Because you've contacted with people who have that strategy and the other strategy and all of that. Then among all of these, you can find out who you are. So for someone who was an architect, that's harder. And at some point I saw Gary Michuris from Silver Ring Value Partners announcing an internship position for his fund. And I was like, because I had worked for an architecture practice, which was like, I'm trying to put it nicely. They have a bunch of architects doing internships, unpaid internships, and they're just exploiting the out of these people. And I was one of them. And because I saw it firsthand and I didn't like it, I just went berserk on Gary Michuris on LinkedIn, like, you're trying to exploit people and you're not paying them and this and that. And what are you trying to do? And he was like, what? Who are you? You don't know anything about me and what I'm offering. Actually, people who have gone through my internship said it was one of the best things they could have done. And this clicked, and I was like, I'm sorry. And I just researched Gary, and I actually want to be a part of that. I want to take your internship program. Can I? And he accepted me. Then there's an admissions process, and he accepted me. And it was the best thing that I could ever have done, was that acknowledgement that I was being an asshole. And that even if I didn't get paid money for it, the knowledge and the experience that Gary shared with me, I now that I know, I would gladly pay a lot for that. So I can thank Gary publicly. I thank him in private. And for all people that are just starting to invest or invests at the start of their investing journey, I cannot recommend it enough, the Gary Michuris internship program, because that guy really delivers a lot of value. Very nice.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I love that he accepted you too. You know, after you tried calling him out. Gary's a great guy. He's been on the show a couple of times, so I can co-sign that one as well. So, we're rounding the bend here. Before we get into some of the typical questions I asked to finalize stuff, Portugal.
Yeah, we gotta go to that one. Well, first of all, now let's turn the this upside down.
Okay, I'll tell you. So
Why?
well,
You told me that you want to come to live in Portugal. Why?
Eventually. So my wife and I have always wanted to, we want to have our children to have a global experience. We've always dreamed of living outside the U.S. at some point. We've looked around other parts of the U.S. at times, and nothing really kind of worked for us. And listen, we live in California. Say what you want about gas prices and taxes and whatever your political stuff is, it is one of the best places to live ever. I mean, you got the beach. I'm a big surfer. You got mountains not that far away. There's so many different things and camping far. There's the national parks. I mean, there's so many amazing things about California. So for us, it was really hard to think like, how could we leave California to go to another part of the U.S. We love it. But when we started to look outside the U.S., we've always been kind of drawn to Europe. I mean, we went to Paris together. That's where we got engaged. We absolutely loved it. And just wanting to just understand different cultures and having kind of a home base to really explore a lot more of the world. And when we were looking around, Portugal seemed to be that kind of like under the radar, almost low cost European solution to that issue. I mean, I think it's getting more and more discovered as I'm saying this, but it seemed to be that low cost solution. And then when we started seeing, just once we saw it was kind of the low cost solution, we started kind of doing our due diligence, and it almost had very a California vibe. You have your beaches. I mean, surfing is probably next to soccer, probably the national sport. Lisbon's a beautiful city. From what I hear, Porto is amazing as well. There's national forests. And then from there, the cost of living, from what I understand, is a lot less than other parts of Europe. And then getting around Europe from there is also just very enticing. So that was some of our thesis. We have family in Israel as well. So, it also makes it easy to kind of go and visit them. It's not too bad of a flight back to the US, so that was kind of some of our thesis. Break my thesis. Tell me if I'm wrong about anything that I just said.
No, I hope you're not wrong. The one thing I would recommend is to come here first.
We're going to do that first. Yes.
Like on vacation, just take a look around, a tour. I can set everything up for you if you want. Now let's promote my country. Beautiful beaches. It's amazing. The food is amazing. It's one of those. The other day I was seeing someone, I think it was a chef, saying that the Italians were able to promote their food quite strongly around the world. The French as well, the French cuisine, the Spanish as well, and we didn't. But at the same time, I'm super happy because I get to eat all of these amazing food, and just people don't know about it. It's like a hidden secret. And up until Ryanair, the low-cost airline, started flying to Portugal, it was really an undiscovered country. We're one of the poorest countries in terms of economy in the European Union, but then we have all of this great stuff. Some people compare it, say that it's the California of Europe, and it's going to be quite different, Bobby. Quite different, but there's a lot of stuff. I don't know if you like wine. We have great wine, and there's a lot of stuff to like. Having said this, there's also things that you won't like. Bureaucracy. Portuguese people tend to, the younger folks not so much, but tend to complain a lot about this, about that, about everything. So there are obviously things not to like about Portugal, but as a general statement, it's a pretty good country to live in. And it's, I would say, depending on where you're coming from or what you're comparing it to, it's super cheap, right? The other day, I've been to Ireland, to Dublin, and I was like, what? A coffee is a regular espresso. It's 4 times the price of a regular espresso here. So in that sense, it's an amazing place to come. Having said this, just another caveat: do not leave or sell your home there. Well, you got to do what you got to do, but the best thing for me would be to be here in the summertime, and then on the wintertime just head off to a better place, because but at least I don't like wintertime, so it's so gray and dark and gloomy. So I would head on to California in wintertime.
Well, I have to. I think we're a few years away from being able to do that. But no, that's some great insight. Yeah, no, we're definitely gonna visit there first. Rather than just pack up and go. We got two kids. We got 2 kids now. We can't just can't just do that.
Tell me when you come, and for all of those that are listening to this conversation or watching. Just you can reach me, and we'll get to there how you can reach me, but just reach out to me and I will help you. I'll give you tips. The other day, for instance, copy of Ventures in Capitalism, I met him here in Lisbon, and then he went to the Açores. I sent him a Word document with everything that you can do in the Açores. I like to show the country around. I can't do it all the time, but I like to show the good things of my country. And for all those who are listening, and for yourself too, Bobby, come between April and October, which is the spring, summer, and a bit of autumn, which is much, much better than the other months.
Is it that bad in the winter?
It's not the same thing. For instance, in Lisbon, you have the river. If you like to go sailing, you can go sailing. You have the beach. You have bars in the beach. You can just sit around, drink a mojito, listen to some cool music. There are parties. It's much better. In the wintertime, you're just with an umbrella going from museum to museum. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I got you. Is it as rainy at the beaches during what is it? I guess November to March.
Yeah, it's well, if you're a surfer, you can surf all year round. Of course, you're gonna be with your wetsuit and all that. But to hang out, we like to how do you say, live in the street? Not live in the street. To hang around in the squares and in the street and all of that, right? So in the wintertime, you just can't do that. So it's much better experience if you come during the spring and summertime, and even autumn as well.
Gotcha. All right. So I'm going to get that Word document from you. So Manuel, to close us out here, what advice then do you have for maybe some of your fellow countrymen that have never heard about or thought about investing in microcaps? Do you have a message for them on about all-in stocks, or maybe how to get involved?
Yeah. First, don't make big mistakes when you're starting to invest, when you're just learning. And a lot of people I hear a lot of people saying that, no, concentration, and I've mentioned this, concentration is the way to go to build wealth. Yes, but that's for the great guys, the ones that really know what they're doing. So you don't put all the eggs in one basket. Take small steps, small bets, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes when you're just starting out. And so a good way to learn is to limit those mistakes to small bets, and do not get too enthusiastic about one single company to the point that you're going to lose a lot of your money. So that's one. The other one is learn as much as you can. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And I've been, I'm not sure if I've been, people think badly of me. Sorry, my English isn't very good, but I ask a lot of questions, because when I don't know, for instance, on Twitter, let's say that someone is talking about a difficult investment concept, I'll ask, and people will tell me. And because Twitter is limited in the characters that you can write or type, people will limit what they're saying, and then I'll ask again and again and again, and then what happens then? I'm a pain in the ass sometimes, but don't be afraid to show that you don't know and to ask questions.
I think that's a great place to end it right there. So Manuel, with that, where can our audience go and find more information about you, follow you on social media, get in touch with you? They're, you might have a travel guide business that you might start as a result of this, but where can folks go?
If you ever want to make an event in Portugal, bring it on. That's one. People can find me at allinstocks.com. For those who are listening, who are just new to investing, I'm launching, and a shameless plug here, I'm launching a course in the next week, in the coming week. It won't be a regular course where I dump things. I'm going to be teaching you, training you with live lessons, with case studies, with exams, all of that. Allinstocks.com. You can find it there. Allinstocks.com, at YouTube as well. And on Twitter, Manuel Bean. I think you're going to put it here, right? Somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be right here. Or on right here or here. But anyways, Manuel, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And you never know. Might see you in person soon.
Thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not an offer or solicitation of an offer to buy or sell securities. SNN Network, SNN Inc., and the Planet MicroCap Podcast and the representatives are not licensed brokers, broker-dealers, market makers, investment bankers, investment advisors, analysts, or underwriters. We do not recommend any companies discussed. We may buy and sell securities in any company mentioned and may profit in the event those securities rise in value. We recommend you consult with a professional investment advisor, broker, or legal counsel before purchasing or selling any securities referenced in this podcast.